Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from cardswire.com, the USA Today NFL Wire site, and we are in the middle of our yearly series of shows, our opponent preview series, where we take a look at. I get on a show, record with a writer for the Cardinals opposing teams. Generally speaking, I try to hit all of them from the NFL Wire so that we're all in the same network. But this edition of the show is focused on the New England Patriots. And so I've got, not for the first time, so this is not the first time for him on the show, although he was covering a different team at the time. This is Jordy McElroy, the site editor for Patriots Wire, our sister site on the NFL Wire network. Jordy, welcome to the show again. Thanks for coming on. I'm very, very gracious that you're taking some time out of your day to talk Patriots with the guy over here baking in the Arizona sun, and I hear that you are baking in the Tennessee sun these days.
Yeah, man, I'm baking in the Tennessee sun. You know what, though, Jess? I'm hoping to be baking in some hot dogs and good old-fashioned hamburgers here tomorrow for the 4th of July, man. So, you know, it's always a good time talking with you and catching up and everything. So we went from covering the Vikings to now the AFC with the New England Patriots. Definitely two teams on different trajectories right now. So
for sure.
It'll be fun, man. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a look back at the Patriots' rough 2023 season. We'll look at the offseason. Obviously, they had a coaching change, free agency, and the draft. They have a new quarterback. They had some trades. And then we'll look ahead to what their hopes are for the 2024 season. So let's turn it back. Let's turn back the clock to 2023. A rough year, I would have to say, for the Patriots. They go 4-13. They are second to last in scoring offense. Mac Jones play after that rookie season of showing a little bit of promise. He sort of just didn't make any improvements. They lost their first two games. They went 1-5, got to 2-10, and then won 2 of their final 5 games. Wasn't enough as they finished the season 4-13, end up with the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Oh, what happened last season, Jordy?
Oh man, what didn't happen last season, man? It was obviously a rough year for the Patriots, and you know, like you started off to saying, Mac Jones, he had an incredible rookie season, Pro Bowl quarterback. You know, he kind of looked like he had that special stuff where he would be the next franchise quarterback after Tom Brady. And most of that was to do with Josh McDaniels being the offensive coordinator there. But then, you know, you're the Patriots. You lose Josh McDaniels to the Las Vegas Raiders at the point. And now, you know, Mac Jones is kind of here left out to dry with Matt Patricia, a defensive guy, coming in to be his new offensive coordinator. Now, I don't know what in the hell Bill Belichick was thinking, that how that could possibly work. But he tried, man. He tried, and it was an absolute failure like we all expected it to be. And Mac Jones, it's like he kind of crumbled mentally there. You know, the offensive line wasn't good. He didn't have many great skilled position guys. It was a complete mess on the offensive side of the ball. And then at that point, after the Matt Patricia mess, you bring in Billy O'Brien to try to clean things up. He's the new offensive coordinator. Billy O'Brien has a great reputation, familiar with the Patriots. He's coached there before, familiar with Coach Belichick. But by that time, Jess, it was too little too late. And he couldn't fix things. The offense still stunk. You know, the Patriots didn't have a great 2023 draft outside of a few guys. You get a Christian Gonzalez or, you know, the cornerback. He's looking like he's going to be really good. Then obviously Demario Douglas at wide receiver. But for the most part, it was a big miss in that draft where they just continue to focus on the defensive side of the ball. You don't pay attention to your quarterback. You're not working really hard on developing the guy. What do you expect to happen? It implodes, and now you look at it, Mac Jones is out of New England, and we have Drake May.
Yes. They finished 30th in yards, 31st in points. Defensively, though, was a different story. Top 10. They were 7th in yards allowed. So in terms of total defense, they were a top 10 defense, 15th in points allowed. But as we've seen with other teams, if you have a good defense and a dreadful offense, it feels hopeless. Like you go into games, and if you like, if an opponent gets up by a score or maybe 10 points, you feel like the game is over, right?
Yep. I mean, you really do. And then it's even worse when, the field goal kicking isn't there either. The Patriots, they had moved up to draft Chad Ryland in the 4th round. They actually traded up to get Chad Ryland, who was shaky at best, kicking field goals. And the defense, they were able to keep them in some really tight games. And Ryland would get out there, and you couldn't really trust what he was going to do out there. So the Patriots, they didn't have a whole lot of ways to score a lot of points. And you had this monstrous top 10 defense over there pulling all the weight, doing everything they're supposed to be doing, and you still can't win football games. So it was a really frustrating year.
Were there obviously most of the disappointments were on offense? If you look at the across the board, there's not much statistically. Your leading rushers is Ezekiel Elliott with 642 yards. Your leading receiver doesn't even reach 600 yards. That's not good. Were there any highlights to the season though? Was there anything positive out of the season? Not about the results, but like individually, were there any positives just to take away?
Yeah, there were definitely positives. You can look at the entire defensive side of the ball, and the Patriots, they were able to bring a lot of those guys back in the offseason. So the Patriots, they're going to be really good defensively still. And sticking to the defense, I look at a guy like Christian Gonzalez, the rookie that came out of Oregon last year, 1st round pick at number 17. That's a guy that looks like he's going to be a stud in the defensive backfield. I'm talking superstar level good. And, the first 4 games, he's going out here and he's holding his own and kind of locking up Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb and some of these other big names, Jalen Waddle. It's pretty impressive. And Tyreek Hill had even come out and said, hey, that young cornerback they got, that boy's good. So to be able to get that kind of compliment from a guy Tyreek Hill stature, it's impressive. And then on the offensive side of the ball, obviously you look at like a Demario Douglas. That's the receiver out of Liberty, 6th round pick. That was a total steal. He's going to be really good. He's showing a lot of promise. So, we'll see what he can do on that side of the ball as well. Another guy people aren't talking about, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Jelani Tavai. He was a guy that had over 100 tackles. He just signed an extension with the Patriots, linebacker. He's really good. So the Patriots, they have some pieces there. It's just, how long does it take them to get to the point where they can start winning football games? And my concern is more on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, than on the defensive side.
Coming up next on the Rise Up Series podcast, Best Star Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's move on to the offseason, talk about the coaching change and more. That's coming up next on Rise Up Series. We're back on the Rise Up Series podcast, Best Star Cardinals Talk on the Web, talking with Jordy McElroy of Patriots Wire, the site editor over there, as we look ahead to the offseason. We'll look back at what's happened this offseason. Obviously, the first big thing that happens is that they make a coaching change. No more Bill Belichick. It's now Jerod Mayo. Was this something that was always going to happen, or how amicable was this divorce with Bill Belichick after the season?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where you can kind of see the writing on the wall when the Patriots started losing a lot of games this past season. And Bill Belichick, he went in there. He obviously pitched his efforts to stay. It wasn't a situation where he's actually wanting to leave. So obviously those two on stage together talking about it's a mutual agreement of splitting of the ways. Look, man, it's never mutual. No breakup's ever mutual. There's always one party that's wanting to stay in the thing and one party that's ready to get out. And Robert Kraft, they were ready to change. And it's just situations since Tom Brady left this Patriots team, they've just gone downhill. Belichick's he's being exposed in terms of like his drafting decisions, they're not making the best drafting decisions. They're so focused on defense that they're just kind of ignoring offense. We're not getting big time playmakers. We're not helping or developing our offensive players. So it was obviously a struggle. And you kind of reached a point where you're the New England Patriots, a 6-time Super Bowl winning franchise, one of the greatest, not one of the greatest dynasty in NFL history. And fans are getting upset. You should go 4-13 last season. Something had to give, and something did give, and Belichick found his way out of New England.
He did. But and then they moved to Jordy Mayo. Was this a case where Mayo was sort of the coach in waiting, or did the Patriots ultimately find that they liked what he had to offer more than the other potential candidates there were?
So for sure, Robert Kraft, he had a really good relationship with Jordy Mayo, and I think he saw something in Mayo early on where he could potentially see him as being the eventual replacement for Bill Belichick. A lot of people, they kind of gloss over the fact that Jordy Mayo, he had coaching interviews, he had opportunities that he had turned down one with the Carolina Panthers. You know, he didn't want to go there. So something along those lines kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit, and you're wondering, like, okay, he must have something bigger in waiting here with New England. And I think in Mayo's mind, Mayo loved New England, and he wanted this opportunity, and he eventually got it, and he's the right guy for the job. And if you look at it, you know, obviously right now Bill Belichick is probably a little saltiness in the way that everything ended. But if you kind of step back, you know, Mayo's the guy that Bill Belichick drafted. He's the guy that's learned under Bill Belichick. So it's almost a full circle moment. This is a Bill Belichick guy taking over this football team. And it's pretty cool when you look at it from that perspective.
Oh, for sure. Now, based on having gone through the coaching change here in Arizona last offseason, we couldn't tell anything until they took the field, but everything about Jonathan Gannon, while outside of Arizona, took some heat, kind of a dork, but everything he said made sense. And in fact, my comments about Gannon last offseason is that the way his philosophy goes is he's as competitive, like he's like a less abrasive Jim Harbaugh, where they talk compete, team. And the Cardinals literally with Monty Austin as general manager are trying to build their team kind of the same way the Patriots always have, and that it's trying to take the me out completely. What's been the feeling in the building? What are the vibes that you get from Jordy Mayo? And he hasn't, like, because all we've done is what he's said so far.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a completely different feel. I mean, you look on social media, you see Patriots players shooting basketball in the locker rooms and riding bicycles in the locker rooms. I mean, this stuff isn't happening if Bill Belichick is still the head coach. So obviously the players are having a lot more fun now. They're a lot more loose. They're saying more things, you know, in the media. Jordy Mayo is saying more things. So it's just, yeah, it's not as robotic feeling as it always was. Obviously, Bill Belichick was like a drill sergeant there, and you know, it's harder to connect with the younger generation with that type of coaching mentality and mindset. But to be honest, I mean, I can't sit here and say that it doesn't work because the guy won 6 Super Bowls. So obviously there's something to be said about that. But you know, I feel like after doing it for so long and it's not working anymore, to get a guy that comes in here a little bit more lighthearted, you know, a little bit closer to team, you know, to the players and stuff like that, more of a relationship with the players. He's not too far removed from playing himself, you know. It's not like he played 20 years or something like that. So, you know, I think he can relate to the players a little bit better, and it makes for a better atmosphere, a happier atmosphere, and a more loose atmosphere, and hopefully it leads to them winning more football games.
I will say this here locally. We've got one of our radio hosts is a former he played for the Cardinals, Ron Wolfley, but he played for the Browns when Belichick was coach there. And so they sometimes have brought Belichick on the air. And what's interesting to note is that he tells us, like, the way Belichick is in the media is complete. It's a complete bit, because when you're not talking X's and O's, when you're not talking football, when he's not Coach Belichick, he's completely different. Like, he's hilarious, he's funny, but then as soon as the recording goes on, it turns into we're moving on to the next game. And it's a bit for him that he's bought into. But so you've got the new head coach, you trade Mac Jones, free agency. Who were the big losses and who were the big additions in free agency and trades? Obviously, you traded away Mac Jones. You got Jacoby Brissett back in the building. What were the biggest moves that happened on both sides of the ball, both in losses and in gains?
So to be fair, the Patriots didn't have a really big free agency in terms of outside free agents. I mean, KJ Osborne, the wide receiver from the Minnesota Vikings, I'm very familiar with him from covering him when I worked for Vikings Wire. And you could probably look at that guy and say that's probably their biggest free agent acquisition. And he's the number 3 receiver for the Minnesota Vikings behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So that just kind of shows you the Patriots, they didn't have a big splash in free agency. This free agency was more about the Patriots keeping their in-house players, signing Christian Barmore to the big deal, keeping Anthony Jennings, signing the offensive lineman Mike Onwenu, who's going to be very important if you're going to throw a rookie quarterback and Drake May out there. So it was more about them keeping their guys in-house. As far as people that have left, Trent Brown leaving, Trent Brown's kind of up and down. It depends on how he's feeling. You never know. You never know with that guy, man. But here's the thing: when he's bought in and he's playing well, Trent Brown's still a very good player, and he's a left tackle for the Patriots, and that's a position that's probably their biggest weakness right now heading into this season. They brought in Chukwu Okorafor, who was a right tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're trying to convert him to left tackle just to see if it works. And we don't know if it's going to work. I mean,
that's always comforting. You're like, we're going to see if it works.
Yeah, we're just going to see if this works. Right tackle, left tackle, same thing, right? And then also too, you go out and they've drafted Caden Wallace, who was with Penn State, obviously playing side by side with Olu Fashanu. And he's the right tackle, and maybe he gets some reps at left tackle. We don't know what's going to happen with that left tackle position. It might go unaddressed this season. So that's losing Trent Brown. I feel like was probably the biggest loss for the Patriots on that offensive line, which could still be a major problem heading into this season.
Just as a side note, because one of the guys that you guys lost wasn't a big player for you guys, but appears to be slated for starting job here, Mac Wilson.
I knew it. Yeah.
Give us a little insight. This is kind of a side because this is supposed to be of the Patriots, but tell me about Mac Wilson. What is he at? I know he mostly special teams with you guys. He's super physical. Even got a little bit of work on the edge. I don't think he's going to be playing side by side with Kaiser White. What do you think he adds to Arizona's defense?
Yeah, Mac Wilson, super versatile. He's fast, and he can come off the edge some as well. There was a point where the Patriots, they started trending more towards athletic, slimmer linebackers. And, the Patriots, they had built up that reputation of having just the kind of the tank linebackers, the big, slow, plodding guys that can make tackles. But, you start getting some of these running backs and stuff out in space, these guys can't cover. And it's just to have a more versatile guy that can move sideline to sideline. He's one of these guys, and obviously, like you just said, he contributes on special teams as well. So he's a guy I think the Patriots would have liked to have kept, but they go out and they get a Sione Takitaki, who they're hoping can kind of replace that with Mac Wilson. But Mac Wilson was an emerging player. He's getting better, so it'll be interesting seeing what he does in the Cardinals defense or on special teams.
Going to the draft, then we go to what they did. Obviously, first round pick. They go a third overall. There was a lot of question. Like pick number 3 was, what are they going to do? We thought Drake May, but there was always the question. Well, what if they don't believe in May for Cardinals fans at number 4, there was always the possibility of, well, they get Jacoby Brissett. Maybe they're not sold on Drake May, and they'll punt the quarterback till next year and just get the big time receiver Marvin Harrison. Thank you, Patriots, for taking Drake May. He's the guy. You add Jalen Polk in round 2. You get Caden Wallace. Who are the guys? So, well, first of all, how excited are you for Drake May? Do you think he can be the guy?
I mean, let's be fair here. We dealt with a revolving door of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, so I'm pretty damn excited about Drake May to come in here. Save us, Drake May. We'll see what he's able to do. But man, you had to go with the quarterback, and I talked to Vince Wilfork before the draft, and even he was saying, he's like, you got to get the quarterback. And it's one of those situations where it wasn't working with Mac Jones. And Jess, you can't win in the NFL unless you have the right guy under center. You just can't. I mean, the defense is great. Maybe they're good enough to stumble into the playoffs, which I wouldn't think so in this hellacious AFC East division that they're playing in right now. But even if they were, you're not winning a Super Bowl or competing for one without the right guy under center. Drake May is a completely different type of quarterback than the Patriots have ever had. During the spring practices, there's Drake May's rolling out and doing sidearm throws and stuff like that and no-look passes. You didn't see this type of stuff from Tom Brady. And I'm not saying Drake May's obviously not Tom Brady. So let's stop right there. But, in terms of what he's able to do for the team, he's one of these new age quarterbacks that can move around in the pocket, make plays on his legs, with his legs. And he's just – It'll be real interesting seeing what he does. He has a hell of an arm too. The guy has a cannon for an arm, so he'll help with some of those big plays downfield. And you're hoping they develop for the Patriots. You brought up Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk, I really like Jalen Polk out of Washington. He's not the most explosive guy downfield or anything like that, but he's Mr. Consistent. He's one of those tough guys. He's going to go up and he's going to make those hard to get catches. He can make catches in traffic. Really good route runner, tough guy. He's been making plays throughout practice. I just want to leave your listeners with this. There was one practice session at the end of minicamp, and it was Drake May at quarterback, and this was the last play, and they were playing against this Patriots defense, and Drake May, he cuts out, and he's able to deliver a pass completion to end minicamp in the back of the end zone. Nice catch there by Jalen Polk. So those guys are already starting to make plays, and they're starting to come together, and we'll see what happens. Javon Baker's another guy. I don't know if did you catch his viral moment after the draft?
I didn't see that doing all this stuff, but I have heard that. I know Baker was one of the later round guys that was really liked kind of universally.
Yeah, so so after the draft, his whole thing was you took too long. I got to make the rest of the league pay for this. And he did an interview and he said, and he told Patriots fans, he said, "Bring your popcorn. I make people in wheelchairs stand up." So we'll see, man. We'll see if anybody's standing, at the end of the season with Javon Baker here. But he's an explosive guy who could turn into the outside the numbers type of guy the Patriots are looking for. So we'll kind of see there with the two rookies there, Javon Baker and obviously Polk and Demario Douglas. He should be even better this year. So we'll see what the Patriots can come up with.
Caden Wallace, tackle in the third round, you mentioned. Layden Robinson, guard out of Texas A&M. Do either of those guys figure into plans for this year?
So Caden Wallace, I think he will be on the field this year. He'll get his opportunities. The tackle situations, it's a big issue for the Patriots right now. They had Mike Onwenu, who was originally a guard and probably a Pro Bowl level guard, one of the best guards in the league when he was at that position. They kicked him to right tackle for a little while because the Patriots, they just didn't have anybody. So now you bring in a Caden Wallace, a young guy who's used to playing right tackle. They've been trying him out at right tackle during the spring practices. So, and then obviously Chuks Okorafor has been at left tackle. So you could probably kick Micah Onwenu back in at guard. So I expect Caden Wallace to factor in some form or fashion. Layden Robinson could get some reps this year. Cole Strange is out right now. He's still dealing with that knee injury, and he might not be better until halfway into the season. So that kind of opens up opportunities for Layden Robinson to get involved. City Soul was a rookie taken by Bill Belichick last year in the draft. So he's been playing at guard, and they've also been playing the veteran from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Nick Leverett, at the other guard spot. So these young guys, they will have an opportunity to play considering how bad the offensive line play has been. We'll just have to see if they can take advantage of those opportunities when they get them.
You get a couple of defensive backs in the sixth and seventh round in Marcellus Dial and Jaheim Bell, and then add another quarterback in Joe Milton, electric player. Was that kind of just I believe 6th and 7th round picks are basically, we'll see what happens. But with Drake May, with Jacoby Brissett, what's the hope with Joe Milton? Is just kind of like we'll see what he's got.
Yeah, so actually, and this is funny. Well, hold up. Before I get to Joe Milton, I have to say Jaheim Bell is the guy to keep an eye on. The tight end that the Patriots drafted. He is extremely versatile, and he has a very high ceiling. So I was very excited about that pick. His wide receivers coach said, I think the first time he saw him, and he said that this is a Deebo Samuel-like pick. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know. I mean, I don't have eyes on him like that, but he's just someone to keep an eye on. Jaheim Bell out of Florida State for the New England Patriots. But Joe Milton, man. So this is actually kind of funny. You know this, Jess. We do a ton of mock drafts leading up. It's exciting. It's fun. It's kind of figure out who the teams are going to pick. And multiple times I projected the Patriots picking Joe Milton at 193 exactly. Exactly. And to have them do that, I felt so validated. And it's one of those situations, like you said, it's almost like a throwaway pick. It's like, hey, dude, this guy's incredibly talented. I mean, he's athletically gifted. If you've seen this, I swear this dude could throw a football to the moon. It's unbelievable. Now, if you want to argue accuracy and stuff, I will gladly sit my butt in the corner. I'm not going to argue accuracy. Comes to Joe Milton, but he can throw really hard, and he's the guy that you want in camp, and he's the guy you want to develop and kind of see what maybe you can get out of that. Great athlete, can run, can make plays with his legs. He's a fun project player that should be extremely fun to watch in training camp.
Something funny here. I made a mistake, but it's not because of something I did. I'm looking at Patriots.com. They say Jaheim Bell is listed like on the picks as a defensive back. But like a tight end. I'm like, wait. Yeah. I'm like, he was a tight end. What is the Patriots site doing? This is Patriots.com, 7th overall, 231st overall, DB, Jaheim Bell. What? Oh,
you know what, Jess? He probably could play DB. That's how versatile that guy is.
Awesome. All right. So that's exciting there. Coming up next on the Rise Up Receiver podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. Let's look ahead to the 2024 season. What do the Patriots hope to accomplish in their first year of what is it a rebuild? That's coming up next on Rise Up Receiver. We're back on the Rise Up Receiver podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. Back for the last segment, talking about the 2024 Patriots. New regime. Would you call this a rebuild? What Cardinals had to do, we had to tear down the roster. Is this just just basically rebuilding the offense while maintaining the same defense? Is that kind of like the philosophy is what trying to do?
Yeah, and that's exactly how I view it. Obviously, So you have to take into consideration their defense is pretty young. You have a guy like Matthew Judon obviously isn't a younger guy out there, and Jonathan Jones. Some of these pieces they're kind of older, more experienced guys. But there's nothing wrong with having a couple of guys like that to kind of lead. A mostly younger group, which is what this defense is. The pillars of this new Patriots defense is obviously up front. You got Christian Barmore, and then you just signed Jelani Tavai at linebacker. And then in the backfield, you got Christian Gonzalez and Kyle Duggar and some of these guys. So it's a young defense coming. So, and they're going to be great. So, yeah, on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, yeah, it is pretty much a rebuild. You're getting a new quarterback in here. Jacoby Brissett was brought in to be the bridge to the eventual starter, which will be Drake May at some point. You're not you're not spending a number 3 overall pick on this guy and watching him ride the bench for the entire season.
Do you anticipate May as starting in week 1, or do you think they'll ease into him with Jacoby starting at the season?
So I'm thinking they're going to ease into him. I could see Jacoby Brissett getting the early start. You know, Alex Van Pelt, the Patriots offensive coordinator, he's already come out and said, basically, if the season started today, Jacoby Brissett's the starter. So, but, you know, when you get into training camp, I mean, we'll see, man. If Drake May's out here at training camp and he's lighting the world on fire, I don't see why you wouldn't throw him in there. But at the same point, we shouldn't rush this because you don't have to. You're not going to the playoffs this year, more than likely. You know, take your time with the young guy and maybe get Jacoby in there. He's more than capable.
We look ahead. The Cardinals, well, you've got the way the schedule lines up, the Cardinals have a few games in a row, but you have 3 of the first 4 games on the road, so they're not doing you any favors. You're facing the Bengals and 49ers on the road in the first 4 games. You face the Dolphins after that, so you face the Bengals, 49ers, and Dolphins and Texans all within the first 4 for the 6 weeks. I mean, Seattle is we'll note what more. And the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy past the first game, they're going to be interesting. What are you looking at for this schedule? That's going to be a brutal schedule to start. What are kind of your hopes and expectations for what this team can accomplish in 2024?
I mean, yeah, like you said, the schedule's absolutely brutal. I mean, you look right off the top, going to Cincinnati against a returning Joe Burrow, that's probably not going to be pretty. I mean, it's some tough games on the schedule, so we'll see. I expect the defense to keep them in games, and if the offense can come out and they can make some plays, the Patriots could be a surprise team in some games. So, you know, it's not a situation where I see this being a total disaster. I see them looking like a rebuilding team, a team that could possibly maybe win 5 or 6 games, and that's probably wishful thinking. You know, if you can come away with 5 or 6 wins, I think that would be great for them. You know, it's just it's all about the offense coming together. It's all about, you know, how quickly Drake May can get in there and get up to speed and what he's able to do with the pieces that are around him. And, you know, and I'll also say this as well. Jacoby Brissett is a way better quarterback right now than Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. You know, he's a good middle of the road quarterback here that's really underrated and doesn't get a lot of respect. But, you know, he's a guy that won't necessarily lose the Patriots game. So, you know, some of those games that they lost last season because of a Mac Jones interception or an ill-advised pass, you might not have that this year with Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots.
So are you saying that best case scenario, they might win 5-6 games? So you're probably looking somewhere between 3 and 6 games this season?
That's sort of what I'm looking at, because it's so hard. You know, you look at that schedule, it's brutal, and also, the AFC East.
Yeah, your division is tough to begin with. The Cardinals are going to play everyone in the AFC East this year because you've got 2 legitimate contenders in Buffalo and Miami. You've got the Jets, who, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and their guys stay healthy, they very much could be in the mix too. And then you've got the Patriots, and and you've got 6 games against those teams. And so, winning any of those games, honestly, winning any of those games in the division will be a task for sure.
Yeah, it'll be tough. And I mean, you know, the Jets are a team, and I've said this, and it pains me to my stomach to say this, but it's, you know, it is what it is, dude. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, I think the Jets are a Super Bowl team. If he's healthy. If he is healthy, and that's a big if, obviously, at his age, and we'll see. But if he's healthy, that team has all of the makings with that defense and some of the pieces they've put around him. That could be a special run for that team. And then you kind of wonder what the Bills are going to do out here. You know, Josh Allen's lost some pieces, but still Josh Allen, you know. And then, obviously, Miami, they have weapons all over the board. So, yeah, dude, it's going to be tough. And you guys will have to suffer with us, it looks like.
Yeah, you guys take on the Cardinals in Arizona in Week 15, coming off your bye week. How do you view that game against the Cardinals? Is that one of the games where, like, maybe we can sneak a win in? How is that? Is that a maybe win, a should win, or I'm not sure if we can win?
So the Cardinals probably just that's one of our hopeful games right there. That's probably one of our hopeful games. So that's a game that I look at on the schedule, and I think that's a possibility. There isn't one game that I'm going to look at on the schedule and say the Patriots absolutely should win these games. It's more of like, okay, they're
Chargers, maybe. You can look at the Chargers that way, maybe. But they got Jim
maybe.
Harbaugh. Yeah, that's true. Like, I'm looking at the schedule up and down. They're not favored in any games this year, are they?
They're not, and they shouldn't be. I mean, they really shouldn't be. You're coming off of a 4-13 season. You weren't really good last year. You have a first-year head coach. New offensive coaches. So much has changed, but I do expect the defense to give them opportunities. I think a lot of people underestimate how good this defense is. This defense is very ferocious, and they've held their own against really good teams last season, despite how bad the offense was. So if the defense can play well, the offense can kind of limit turnovers, play smart, run the football, which is something Alex Van Pelt loved to do in Cleveland and had a lot of success doing so. The Patriots, they could surprise some teams and be in some games, or maybe even win some games that people aren't expecting them to.
That makes sense. Yeah. I just hope, just this time, when the Patriots come to Arizona, don't be the reason why that Kyler Murray tears his ACL. I know nobody did it. That was I was in the stadium that game. That was such a disaster of a season in 2022.
Yeah.
And the only saving hope, was, okay, like when he went down, everyone in the stadium knew what it was. It was an ACL. And we're like, this season, that's the only thing that we didn't want to happen. That's the only thing that would have ruined an even worse season. That was the worst thing. Kyler Murray down with the torn ACL. That was gut wrenching. And to have it happen, he's just making a cut in the open field and boom, gone. And what was it? Was it Judon? It was like Judon knew immediately.
Yep.
Before he touched him down and was signaling to the Cardinals sideline immediately. I'm like, let's not have that happen again.
Yeah.
Let's not have that happen again.
That's a terrible feeling, to see your quarterback go down like that. And obviously, I always look back to the 2008 season. You're coming off of that, the perfect 16-0 regular season from the Patriots in 2007, and then Tom Brady, he drops back and he gets hit in the knee. The very first game of that season, and torn ACL, and it's just a gut-wrenching feeling. To lose your quarterback. But at least he was able to come back, the next season. So.
Yeah. Well, and it was dumb because, like, you had Matt Castle and still won double-digit games, even though he didn't make the playoffs. That's dumb. Come on.
That's That's Bill Belichick at his best back then. That was Bill Belichick at his best, and we got to see him then, and then obviously now, well, not anymore. We were seeing Bill Belichick at his worst. So hopefully good things from here.
All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Rise of C-Red podcast, the best of our Cardinals talk on the web. Our opponent preview with Jordy McElroy from the Patriots Wire. You can find his work at the Patriots Wire. Jordy, is it anywhere else, social media, anywhere else that Cardinals fans can find your work?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Jordy McElroy on Twitter, or X, whatever you call it, Twitter/X. I don't know.
I'm always going to call it Twitter. Always.
I think I am too. But, yeah, you guys can find me on there. But yeah, we're always cooking up stuff on Patriots Wire. Looking forward to training camp. Should be a lot of fun, man. Real football is right around the corner. Here we go.
Can't wait. Thanks, Jordy, for the time. That wraps up this edition of the show. We'll be back again soon, probably with another opponent preview show. That's Jordy McElroy. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening, as always.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up C-Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise Up Red Sea, be Red C-Red, and of course, Rise Up C-Red.